I am Anana, daughter of ice and wind, keeper of the old songs. Sit close to the glow of the oil lamp, and let my words drift on the frozen air as we journey back to the time before time, when the world was young and the waters still whispered with magic. They called her Nuliayuk, she who lives beneath. But long ago, before she earned that name, she was Sedna, a maiden of unmatched beauty, her hair long and dark as midnight, her laughter bright as the northern lights dancing across our winter sky. Her people loved her voice, soft as seal pelt breezes, clear as the crust of ice over a still lagoon. But beauty, like the thin ice that cracks underfoot, can break a heart. One spring, when the sun lingered too long on the horizon, a stranger came by, neither man of her people nor beast of the land. He bore feathers where arms should be, and his eyes glowed like distant lanterns. He was a birdman, a traveler from beyond the mountains of ice, and he spoke to Sedna in a tongue that echoed in her dreams. "Come away with me, and you shall see wonders no mortal has ever known." Curiosity burned in her chest. Against her mother's pleading tears, against her sister's fierce embrace, she slipped into the stranger's arms. His wings carried her above the frozen cliffs, where jagged walls of ice turned blush at the touch of dawn, and across a sea so clear she could see the giant whales sleeping in its depths. He built for her a home of driftwood and ivory, high on a floating island that glimmered beneath the sun. But wonder, without roots, withers. Sedna's heart ached for the sound of her mother's laughter, for the taste of fresh water, for the soft crunch of snow underfoot. When her father, worried and sleepless, came to rescue her, he found her curled on a bed of shimmering shells. He called her name, Sedna, but his voice stirred not the maiden he once knew. The birdman barred their way, eyes aflame, his beak opening in a terrible cry that shook the very sky. Fear seized her father's heart. He gripped the oar and called upon the spirits of the seals and the caribou to protect them. But the birdman's wrath summoned winds that twisted the kayak as though it were driftwood. The father, blind with panic, did what no man of our people should ever do. He seized his daughter and hurled her into the freezing black water. I see it still in the flicker of the lamp, Sedna's dark hair trailing behind her like ink across glass, her slender fingers clawing at the hull. But her father would not relent. He thrust the paddle again, and again, until at last her fingers slipped from his grasp and sank. One by one, each slender finger was lost to the cold. Yet in that moment of loss, Sedna's sorrow and fury became the lifeblood of the sea. Her severed fingertips drifted down and blossomed into life. The seals first, sleek and gentle. Then the walruses, heavy with tusks like curled moonlight. And finally, the great whales, whose songs now echo through every fjord. Sedna herself sank deeper, her hair tangling with kelp, her legs fusing into a broad tail of iridescent scales. As she looked up, eyes rimmed with salt and tears, she became more than a woman. She became the mistress of all creatures beneath the waves. They say that from her undersea palace of coral and pearl, she watches us still, craving the warmth of our songs, the offerings we cast into the tide. If hunters forget to honor her with gifts of blubber and seal oil, Sedna grows angry. The seals hide beneath ice that will not crack, the whales slip silently from harpoons, and the sea becomes a silent desert. Only a shaman, brave enough to voyage in the spirit world, can soothe her pain. He paddles across the northern lights, climbs the rainbow bridge of Aurora, and begs her forgiveness, combs the tangles from her hair so that she might remember her kindness. This is why our people speak her name in reverent whispers and leave a piece of fresh meat at the water's edge before every hunt. We do not forget the maiden whose longing was so deep that it carved the sea itself. We do not forget the sorrow that forged the life of our world. And each time the seals break through the ice, each time a whale sings at dawn, we know that Sedna, we who are strangers to her depths, remains both giver and gatekeeper of the sea's bounty. So remember, children of the northern wind, the sea is mother and monster alike. Treat it with respect, for Sedna sees every heart as clearly as the moon sees our path across the ice. Honor her with your thanks, appease her with your songs, and she will grant you safe passage and plentiful catch. For she was once a daughter, too, longing for home,